Josh, he was in the Facebook groups is where I first came about you. I seen everybody. You got a big following in there. They really believe in your services and all, and that's what got my attention right away. So and I see you are kind of controversial in a way, man. You definitely will say what's on your mind. I don't remember exactly. I think it was like maybe a month and a half back. I think you were getting tired or something. Like a lot of people were talking crap about Google Ads, and you made this video, and I was like, I like that. He's not beating around the bush. He's just going straight at it. And also, I want to first find out, man, your background. Like, how did you get into junk removal? Did you have a
Yeah.
junk removal company? Kind of
Yeah.
tell us about that.
Yeah. So, long story short, I started my junk removal business in 2020, and 2022, I started doing marketing. It just took over. I mean, so the way that I got started doing marketing, well, the way that I got started with junk removal is I owned rental properties. Okay. And I got really tired of hiring junk removal companies. To be honest, it was so expensive, dude. Like, rental, anybody who knows anything about investing, I don't know if you guys have ever owned rental properties, they could be the worst headache, and just such a money pit. I mean, just such an unpredictable, bottomless pit of tossing money down the drain. Junk removal was just icing on the cake. Every time a tenant would move out, it would feel like to me I have like five things, and 1-800 got junk would want $1,500. So I mean, it sort of led me down the path of that. That's when I wanted to, I came to a point with my job where I'm like, I want to do this. I had an ex-girlfriend who her dad did it. I was hiring these companies all the time, so I thought it would make sense. I started out with a box truck, uh, and I hired a lot of marketing agencies. I'm not going to say any names, but I've hired a lot of marketers that are in these groups that are big names. I've spent a lot of money. From the beginning, I was a little bit different than how a lot of guys start out. So from day one, I had an employee. From day one, I was spending money on advertising. I never tried to do it door knocking, hanging flyers, going on Facebook. I never did that. I was spending money straight out of the gate because I didn't have time to mess around. I had bills I had to pay, so I didn't want to rely on word of mouth and stuff. So I came in, got a box truck, hired an employee, and was spending money straight out of the gate. I hired a lot of marketers. After a certain amount of time being very patient, investing a lot of money, it sort of just, to me, it seemed that a lot of them really didn't care about the results. And they were just in it for a check. So eventually I started doing it myself, and I wasted a lot of money. It started to become like a problem for me. It was like an addiction. I mean, it wasn't a good thing. Like I became so obsessed with it that I was willing to lose money to figure out how to do it, like a lot of money. And I bought courses, and I'd be like, I wonder if I do this with an ad. Let me just make a separate campaign for this. Let me just try this out, targeting these areas. Let's throw like $150 a day at it. Like, it just came to a point where I didn't really care if I was making money. I just wanted to get good with it. And I started in the Facebook groups. I had just offered to run ads for a couple guys that just said they were just having terrible results. That really quickly just turned into, yeah, I'm going to stop doing junk removal. I've worked with almost 200 businesses within the past 3 years. So it's, I still have the junk removal business right now. I actually I have two guys here that are competitors, but they're my friends. Like, we'll go out and eat lunch together and stuff. And I won't say names or anything, but one of them just gets everything from my business. All my phone calls, form submissions, they just go to him. I don't even charge him or anything. But I also do Google ads for both those guys for different things. So that's kind of how I've got to where I am. It was very accidental, but I mean, I'm glad things have worked out the way that they have.
So with the junk removal, were you
Huh?
like successful with it? Did you take it like seriously? Was it like a full-time job you, or was kind
Heck
of like
yeah. Nothing
oh yeah,
else.
it
I
was
had
full
nothing
time?
else. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that went into it. I was profitable every year. Um, but there came a point where I just didn't. I'm going to be honest with you. I hated doing it. I fucking hated it. I mean, it felt like every other day I was, oh, we don't know what happened to our dolly. This is the sixth one I bought this year. I went through 5 Sawzalls in a single year. My employees would lose stuff. Everybody that would work with me needed a ride to work. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not really a good people person, to be honest with you. And that's something that I really struggle with. Like I said in the beginning, like I didn't have a girlfriend or I didn't have any buddies that would like help me. Like I had to do this from the jump. I was never one of those guys that would like try to do it myself. I don't know how you guys do that, dude. I know there's a lot of guys. The few times I've went to go do jobs by myself, I regretted it. I fucked up somebody's the first time I ever went and did a job by myself. It was a hot tub. Took me like 6.5 hours, dude. I'm like, never fucking.
Wow.
And then I did it another time where one of my employees called off, and it was a washing machine. It was a very simple job, but yeah, I fucked up the person's door. I had to pay for all the trim and stuff, so that was a big thing for me. Another thing that kind of contributed to my decision was at the time in this area, I'm in Cleveland. We have the main transfer station, which is Ridge Road. It was like $46 a ton. Okay. They shut down to the public. They closed at like 2:30. It became hit or miss when they would let people go in and out. I mean, it was just becoming really, really difficult. We would show up at the dump. We'd try calling them. They don't answer. We'd show up at the dump in the morning, and they'd say, we're turning you guys away today. Then I got to cancel all my shit, and I got to pay my people. I can't just pay them for an hour. There's no way to keep people. So I'd have to pay them for the whole day. I'd have customers mad. It was either that or we have to go out of our way to another transfer station where the prices are literally more than double. And it messed everything up. There's a lot that went into it. I just hated doing it. I hated it. I loved the marketing side of it that I started to learn, but I hated doing junk removal.
So what I'm really interested in is, obviously junk removal wasn't your thing. You weren't really into it, but like, so explain, like, how did your marketing, because it seems like you got obsessive with that. How successful did that make your business?
So I did not become, I won't even, I'm not even going to toot my own horn, but one of the biggest things looking now that I didn't realize at the time, there's no way, no matter how much I did marketing wise, I would have ever been as good as I could be just doing it for my own company. It's just impossible. I mean, at the time, I mean, I was getting better results than all the marketing agencies that I hired. So I thought that was good enough. I'm like, hey, I can help you out. I wasn't charging people a lot of money
Josh,
to do it.
let me just stop you there. So let me ask you, you don't have
Yeah.
to, you said you didn't want to name names or anything, but can you give us an idea? What do they charge monthly? Like, what were you paying on the average for, these marketing companies to do all your ads, and what did it come with? Was it SEO? Was it just Google ads? Was it Facebook ads? Kind of let us know the details.
So, okay, again, I really don't want to name people, but the first person that I ever hired, this agency that I ever hired, gave me everything, right? Built a website, did SEO, made me a logo. I think they made me a logo. I might have had the logo made or something. Running Google ads, whatever. And it basically didn't do anything for my business. And I didn't care about marketing. When I first started, I don't care. I don't mind spending money. It has to make sense. And I know that running a business is hard and it's going to be competitive, but consult with me, help me get better results. And I remember at one point I was literally on the phone with the first marketer that I hired. And he's very big now. And I remember telling me, yeah, man, Google ads it's just not worth it. And it's like, how are you going to charge me to do this and sell it to people and then say that it's not worth it? So then I hired another guy, and he was really, really hard to get a hold of. I hired just a couple different guys. They're not really agencies, more like freelancers. And I was not a shitty customer. I hired a agency, a big one from YouTube. And I mean, I
Can you
started to
give me
learn
a
a little
range though? Because I'm completely
of
dumb when it
what.
comes to this.
Sorry, of what I was paying.
Yeah, because I really need to know this, because I
Sorry.
see like rumors going around with, like, there's been a topic, somebody's disappeared recently. We're gonna get into that,
Sorry.
but they're
Yeah.
saying how much they were paying, and I was just kind of in shock. So I want to
So
hear from you.
for Google Ads, I was paying $500 to $1,000 a month, depending on who I hired.
Okay.
And that was kind of at the time. And now,
And now from that, you weren't. Can you let me know what were the returns that you were seeing on that?
well, that's the thing. I didn't really know at the time.
Okay.
I wasn't really keeping track of anything. I just know that it wasn't making sense. And which now here's, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be all over the place. I kind of tend to babble sometimes, but here's kind of the thing, and kind of my point with that. Most business owners in junk removal are focused on running a junk removal business. That's what they want to do. And they hire a marketer because they, you want somebody to do this for you so you can focus on your business. But then there's absolutely, I wasn't getting the marketing agencies I had hired. I wasn't getting copies of my phone calls. I couldn't listen to any of my recorded calls. No kind of reporting or updates or talking to them whatsoever. I mean, just really nothing. So I didn't know what I needed to be doing. I just know once I started to figure things out and I looked at the ads, I seen how much money I was wasting on stuff like Republic, trash service, waste management, bag stir pickup, and just all kinds of garbage. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if these guys just don't know what they're doing. Frankly, I think they just don't care. So, um, the the return was very poor. I don't know what it was because I wasn't tracking anything. I didn't realize that I had to be doing that at the time.
So what made you decide, okay, I'm not paying nobody anymore. I'm just gonna go do this myself. And then how
I
long
didn't want to.
okay, but
I
how
felt
long
like
did it take you to figure it out? Because it seems like you kind of just locked yourself in and we're just like, I'm gonna figure this out. How long of a process was that?
Probably a year and a half, maybe. I didn't want to do it myself. I felt like I didn't have a choice. I mean, it didn't matter who
Do you have
referred
a
me.
lot of computer background?
No.
Sorry to jump in, but do you have a lot of computer background? Because I would be totally lost.
I was super lost. Um, it was. I started to just feel like I did not have an option. Is really what it was. It wasn't like I said, I'm going to learn how to do this. I'm going to become a marketing agency. It was like, okay, I've hired 5 fucking companies. They all had great reviews. Everybody that I talked to said these guys are awesome. And it was just a shit show. And then, I talked to a few companies that I had talked to that I didn't hire. One thing about that I noticed about these different agencies, their prices were just all over the place. I mean, some guys wanted $1,500 to $2,000 to build a fucking landing page for me. So it's like, yeah, I'm kind of getting tired of doing this runaround. I don't mind spending the money, but I'm not getting the results that I feel like I need to be getting. So yeah, it was just I didn't want to learn how to do it myself. I saw it as I really didn't have a choice at the time.
Okay, so now when did you figure it out? Like what year are we in that you're just like, okay, I got this now. I'm
End
gonna
of
stop
20
junk removal and I'm going all in with marketing.
End of 21, halfway through 22. So I was doing marketing when I really don't want to drop any names. I was doing marketing and running my junk removal business, and I was happy doing both. And then I won't say any names. There's a marketer in the group there's an agency that didn't want to handle Google Ads anymore, and they basically handed me like 10 clients overnight. So I'm like, okay, I have to do something. At the time it was such a big I was so lucky. I mean, that's what kickstarted my business. That's when it went from me like helping out 5 or 6 guys, boom, having almost 20 clients overnight. I'm like, okay, I have to stop picking up junk. I can't focus on that. I have to let my employees know, I have to stop doing this because now I'm like committing to spending money for people. Like I have to focus on this. So, very fortunate that it happened that way.
So Josh, so in the beginning, you didn't know really anything about computers. I think you said, right? And running ads or anything. But
Nothing.
within 2 years, now you're running people's situation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you learned all this, how to market for people and how to you do the marketing and everything for junk removal for other businesses all within 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, it was much shorter than 2 years, but I've gotten better over it. I've gotten better at it over time. I did buy courses. I lit money on fire, dude, to learn how to do it. I saw it as an invaluable skill to have. So, I'm like, if I can figure this out and I can really get this down, it's a
So
really invaluable skill to have.
so are you paying anybody to do your SEO for you, for your clients?
I only do ads. I don't white label anything.
Okay.
Sorry. So sorry. When you say SEO, I don't offer SEO.
Okay, so we want to just get clear. So what is your like forte? So it's Google Ads. Do you also do Facebook Ads? Do you do
Nope.
any other marketing?
I focus only on Google Ads now.
Okay.
I'm sure a lot. I don't know, how many people are going to see this video, but I'm sure a lot of them can attest to the fact that I run paid ads because I plaster people in those groups with Facebook ads, dude. So I do run Facebook ads, and like I do have a couple clients where I help them with SEO, but I do not offer it as a service. I just want to be very clear. Like you could call me today and offer me any amount of money. I focus on Google Ads because I want to be good at Google Ads. I don't want to offer everything under the sun.
That makes sense. And
Yeah.
Josh, this is what I want to kind of get the background. So what were you making, if you don't mind sharing, what were you making in junk removal per year? You started, I think, in 2020. Kind of give us
Sure.
like the rundown, and what was like the opening year? What did you make and all?
So my first full year, I did like 240,000, and I think I made like $42,000. My second year in business.
So you only made 42 out of it, and is that from all the ads that you were paying for and all that?
Sorry.
So you only made 40 grand out of the 250 gross? Is that what you said?
I don't know. Yeah, it was like 225. Yes.
Wow.
I mean,
So
I had a
what
pretty
was
reasonable.
explain what was costing so much? It was the ads and all?
Well, so yeah, the ads cost a lot of money. I think and again, so keep in mind, I started like halfway through the year, so I'm really thinking about my first full year in business, right? Like my first full year tax return. So the ads were a significant expense to me. I think I spent like $70,000 out of that 230 on advertising. But at the same time, here's the thing: I wouldn't have made that much money if I didn't invest in advertising. So, one of my biggest expenses was just waste. I'm not a financially sound. I'm not good with money, like bookkeeping and stuff. I'm the worst person. I have an accountant. I print out my bank statements at the end of the year. I go through all my paperwork. I highlight stuff that was a business expense. What this was for. What this was for. I'm very messy in that regard. So I'm sure I lost a lot of money due to just little things, right? Like I would buy a lot of tools and equipment. My employees would lose stuff all the time. Ran over a few mailboxes. We got a bunch of flat tires, stuff that probably could have been, prevented, or I could have been cheaper about. And I'm just like, fuck it. I just need this done because we got to get back on the road. So a lot of it was probably just poor financial decisions on my end. But I mean, even then, I think the profit margin that I was hitting was reasonable to me. I mean, I started a business out of nowhere. To do $200,000 in 12 months is, for me, that was pretty awesome.
But Josh, if you weren't keeping records, how do you know you made 200,000?
Well, I have a CPA. We file taxes.
Okay.
Now,
I mean, to file taxes, we have to have reported. P&Ls.
Well, you can tell your CPA anything, really.
I'm not sure what you're getting at.
Well, let me ask you this: how so the last year in junk removal before you went all in with the market and everything, what was that like? What were you keeping out of there and all that?
Sorry, ask again.
Like your final year as in junk removal, because the first year that was you brought in 240 gross. What was like the last year in junk removal before you made the big transition to marketing and said, all right, I'm done with junk removal?
Yeah, sorry. So let me kind of recap. So I really only had one full fiscal year. Okay. So because I started in June or July or August or something in 2020. Okay. So I had 6 months that first year. I think I made like $70,000 gross. Can't remember what I made out of it. $20,000, less than $20,000. And then my second full year, which was 21, that's when I made $240,000. And then for 22, I honestly couldn't tell you. So this is not financially sound, obviously, but my marketing agency, everything is still under the junk removal business. So how I've filed taxes has always been Top Shelf Junk Removal LLC. So I basically, when we stopped in 22, like halfway through the year, and I made so much money marketing, I honestly couldn't tell you which was which.
So how many clients in that first year would you say that you got, with the marketing, and like, what are you charging, per month? Like, did it go up from, the beginning? Like now, are you charging a higher rate? Like kind of how does the whole pricing work and all that?
A little bit, but not really. I started charging. So the way that I did it was like I would pay for the call tracking software and the website builder. I was using a website builder to build landing pages. And then we have Click Fraud Defender. I was paying for all that. And I just charge clients a flat rate of $300 a month. Now I generally charge $400 a month for virtually everybody, but I do have a lot of situations where I will charge upwards of $600 a month. Like sometimes we'll build multiple campaigns and it'll require a lot of work. I also have a few clients that have multiple locations. I don't charge them full rate, but it can just vary. But just for anybody, like an average person were to call me and say, hey, can you run my ads? I charge $400 a month and we do a free 30-day trial. So I don't charge people anything for the first 30 days.
And what would you say is like a good starting point? Say I'm looking to get into, running an ad campaign for Google. I'm like 5-6 months in junk removal. What's a good budget? And is this the proper time for me to start now, or do I want to wait longer? Like, when's the ideal time for me?
So here's the thing. One of the things that I found out is that literally nobody talks about the drawbacks of Google Ads. One of the biggest drawbacks, so we have two types of marketing channels, okay? We have demand capture channels, and then we have demand generation channels. In demand capture channels, I promise I'm going to get to your point here. Sorry, I'm just breaking this down. So demand capture channels, we're capturing existing demand. Think Google, Bing, Angie's List, Thumbtack, etc. People are going to the internet, whatever, looking for our service, and we're capturing those leads. And then we have demand generation. We have YouTube, display ads, TikTok, Facebook, etc. Where you're trying to essentially create demand in your market, right? And one of the drawbacks of Google and capture channels in general is relying on search volume. So your budget should not be, there is no single, I will say that we won't run ads for anybody really with less than $50 a day budget because it just doesn't really make sense in most cases. But your budget's going to depend heavily on what area you're in. So
let me ask you this, Josh. So if I put $50 a day, is that like, am I going to see anything from that? Like, what are the returns, and like, how long does it take to get these returns?
Okay, so people are going to, people always hate when I say stuff like this, but honestly, the returns are so dependent on your book rate. But your book rate to me is the most important figure in your business. How many calls does it take you to land a job? That's what's going to determine how worth it Google Ads is going to be. Plain and simple. If you land 1 out of 4 calls, and calls are numbers don't lie, right? Marketers lie, men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. That's what I always tell people. If we can track your phone calls and consistently see, due to your pricing or whatever the case is, you consistently land 1 out of 4 phone calls. Even if we build a killer ad campaign that is generating leads for $25, and you say, let's try $50 a day. Just do the math. 2 calls a day, on average, you land 1 out of 4 on average. You're going to do a job every 2 days. That's not going to move the needle at all. That's not going to change your business in any way, shape, or form. It's going to feel like it didn't work and you're just wasting money. So your book rate really heavily influences the possible return on investment. I consider a good return on investment to be 4 times or higher, but it depends so significant. It's so different for every company. It's impossible to give a number. If you land 1 out of 2 calls and you say, it depends on your goals, right? If you were to say, hey, Josh, we want to do 3 calls a day from Google Ads, okay? This is how I would break it down. I would say, okay, we're going to look in the market. We're going to see how much search volume there is to see how many leads we could potentially get with a reasonable click-through rate and a reasonable conversion rate, okay? We're going to see how many leads we could potentially get. But just assuming, in average scenarios, probably most junk removal companies and dumpster companies book 1 out of 4 calls. So a lot of times I talk to people, they say, we book 80, 90% of our calls. No, you don't. I will go in any of these groups, dude. I will put cash on it. Anybody that can prove to me they booked that, nobody does. And that's the reason why a lot of junk removal and dumpster companies, I think, struggle is they really underestimate how many leads they need to get. So anyways, let me get to your point. If you need to land 3 jobs a day and you land 1 out of 4, you need 12 leads a day. And even if we're getting killer results at $25 a pop for those leads, what's that going to be? $250, $300? You spend 300. Is that right? 12 times 25, 250. Yeah, you'd be spending $300 a day to get 12 calls. So your book rate really heavily influences how much money you're going to make from the ads. And a lot of the time, you're not going to be able to rely on Google Ads to bring you that many calls in a day. So, sorry, kind of babbling here. But
How,
it depends how many.
how long? Oh, sorry, Adam. What are you
I'd
going to say?
like to interject on booking percentages only because I have a very long record of amazing booking. And so when I worked for College Hunks, I was a plebe there, all right, at the call center. I was inbound calls, and I was the booking champion. Most months I would book around 65 to 72% of my calls. And I don't think it's very difficult to book a junk removal call, honestly. Like, as long as you set the parameters correctly. Now, if you do it too loosely, you're just going to go there and not get the job. So you still have to like distinguish like all the parameters. But I would say 50% would be a reasonable booking percentage. Like most of the inbound reps did like 40 to 50%. That I worked with anyway.
All right,
that has not been my experience. I've always been told that a good number
close rate then. So like, is it like the calls that actually lead to a actual successful completed job?
Yeah, sorry, I just used the terms interchangeably, not factoring in cancellation rates. Okay, so I'm referring from call to booked appointment.